Is it worth spending assets on a backup center? The Boston Celtics find themselves in an enviable position. With a roster that has already proven capable of competing for a championship, the big question is, does it make sense to invest valuable assets in a backup center? After all, we're talking about a player who, at best, will have limited minutes, especially in the playoffs, when rotations shrink and stars play extended time. Kristaps Porzingis, despite his injury history, remains the unquestioned starter, and when healthy, is both an offensive and defensive game-changer. Al Horford, even at 39 years old, still provides consistency, tactical intelligence, and invaluable floor spacing. Additionally, Luke Kornet and Xavier Tillman Sr. already play solid roles in the rotation, offering size and defense. Would a new center really elevate the team's ceiling? More importantly, if the team plans to spend assets, whether through a trade or a signing, wouldn't it make more sense to target a player who could ease the burden on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown? Last season's playoffs exposed how much the duo had to shoulder the offensive load, especially in crucial moments. The lack of a reliable third scorer who can create his own shot remains a glaring gap on the roster. Beyond that, modern basketball increasingly values versatility. The NBA is shifting toward a style of play where multi-positional wings make the biggest impact on both ends of the floor. If the Celtics end up facing teams like the Denver Nuggets, Milwaukee Bucks, or even the Oklahoma City Thunder in a potential finals matchup, wouldn't it be more useful to have a strong defensive wing to match up against stars like Giannis Antetokounmpo or Kevin Durant? And there's an even more crucial factor. Assets are limited. The Celtics cannot afford to spend draft picks or promising young players on a position that is already relatively well covered. Would a backup center make a difference in regular season games? Yes. But in the playoffs, where rotations tighten and the key minutes go to the top players, the priority should be elsewhere, unless a market opportunity arises that is simply too good to pass up, like a trade for a clear upgrade over the current options. Spending resources on a backup center seems, at best, a questionable decision. If the Celtics are going to invest, it should be in a player who addresses a real issue and truly increases their championship odds. Would Jalen Williams really be an upgrade? The Boston Celtics are in a position where every roster move must be made with surgical precision. The team already has a well-established core, and any addition must bring real impact to justify the investment. With that in mind, the question arises, would Jalen Williams truly be an upgrade for this roster? Looking at the numbers, the answer seems to be a clear no. Williams averages a modest 5.1 points and 5.3 rebounds per game, figures that fail to impress even in a secondary role. The Oklahoma City Thunder value him, but is that valuation justified? He is undoubtedly an energetic player, but is energy alone enough to make a difference on a team with championship aspirations? In the Celtics' current system, Luke Kornet already provides an energetic presence in the paint, and at 7'2", 2.18 mirror, he also has a height advantage and experience within Joe Mazzulla's defensive scheme. Additionally, Xavier Tillman Sr. was brought in to add a more reliable physical and defensive presence, and Al Horford, even at 39 years old, remains one of the smartest players in the league, offering floor spacing that few big men can replicate. Given this scenario, where exactly would Jalen Williams fit? If the goal is to add a young center with potential, wouldn't it make more sense to target a player with greater two-way impact? Despite his energy, Williams is not a strong rim protector, something the Celtics could genuinely need against teams that exploit the paint, like the Bucks, Nuggets, and even the Sixers. And offensively, his game lacks both shooting range and strong post-finishing ability, making him a questionable fit alongside Porzingis and Horford. Should Boston keep investing in traditional big men? The NBA is evolving at a rapid pace, and teams that fail to adapt risk being left behind. The era of traditional centers, whose primary roles are rim protection and rebounding, is becoming increasingly limited to very specific situations. Today, a big man needs to be able to defend multiple positions and, ideally, stretch the floor with a reliable jump shot. Given this, does it make sense for the Boston Celtics to continue investing in traditional big men? Let's look at the profile of teams that have dominated the league in recent years. The Denver Nuggets have Nikola Jokic, a center with elite passing ability and a complete offensive game. The Milwaukee Bucks have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who, while not a traditional center, dominates the paint with his unique physicality. The Golden State Warriors revolutionized the game by embracing small ball and extreme spacing, and the Miami Heat, even without a star big man, reached the finals with quicker, more defensive-minded lineups. Now, let's examine the Celtics' own roster. Kristaps Porzingis represents the modern big man prototype. He can protect the rim while spacing the floor with his deadly three-point shot. Al Horford, even at 39 years old, remains a valuable piece precisely because he can defend multiple player types and shoot from deep. But what about the others? Luke Kornet, Xavier Tillman Sr., and potential targets like Jalen Williams don't offer that same level of versatility. Take Jalen Williams, for example. He brings energy, but he lacks floor spacing and high-level offensive creation. His skill set might be useful in the regular season, but in the playoffs, where teams exploit every weakness, would he really make an impact? If the goal is to add a center to strengthen the rotation, wouldn't it make more sense to pursue someone who can truly elevate the team? A viable alternative would be for the Celtics to double down on smaller, more aggressive lineups. A dynamic small ball approach, with Tatum playing minutes as a false four and Brown taking on even more defensive responsibilities, could make Boston even harder to guard. Additionally, a physical and versatile wing could add more value to the system than a traditional center who might become a liability against more dynamic teams. Another crucial factor is asset management. Every roster move needs to be made with extreme caution, and spending cap space or draft picks on a big man who lacks versatility could be a waste. If the goal is to strengthen the team, the priority should be acquiring a player who genuinely increases their championship chances. The trade for Jalen Williams might cost more than it's worth. Whenever NBA trades are discussed, one essential factor must be considered: cost-benefit. Not every acquisition is worth the price paid, especially for a team like the Boston Celtics, which already has a competitive roster and must act with extreme precision in the market. In this scenario, trading valuable assets for Jalen Williams seems like a move that could cost more than it's truly worth. The first thing to analyze is the Oklahoma City Thunder's track record in trades. OKC is one of the smartest franchises in the league when it comes to accumulating assets and maximizing value in deals. Sam Presti, the team's general manager, rarely makes unfavorable trades. If the Thunder truly values Jalen Williams, we can be sure they won't let him go for a low price. That means Boston would have to give up a rotation piece, or even worse, a valuable draft pick to acquire a player who, at best, would only be a backup. And here's the big question: is it worth spending assets on a backup center? Williams, despite his energy and defensive effort, is not a player who changes a team's trajectory. He doesn't stretch the floor, isn't an elite rim protector, and lacks a reliable offensive skill set. He would be a complementary piece, no doubt, but should Boston really pay a premium for that? The team already has players filling that role, like Luke Kornet and Xavier Tillman Sr. Additionally, Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis remain the primary frontcourt options in crucial moments. Another critical factor is the financial and strategic impact. If the Celtics give up draft picks to acquire Jalen Williams, they'll be sacrificing future flexibility for a player unlikely to make a significant impact. If the goal is to strengthen the roster, why not target a versatile wing who could ease the burden on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, or even a center who truly makes a difference on both ends of the floor? If Boston is going to spend a first-round pick, it should be for someone like Jarrett Allen, or a player with a more modern skill set. But for an energy big who doesn't elevate the team's ceiling, that seems like, at best, a questionable decision. There's also the risk that acquiring Williams could limit Boston's flexibility for future moves. In today's market, assets are gold, and spending draft picks or young players on someone who doesn't address a real need could be a strategic mistake. The Celtics need to think long-term. If they use their resources now on a mediocre acquisition, they might lack the capital to make a truly impactful trade later. At the end of the day, Jalen Williams is a solid player within his role, but the cost of acquiring him could far exceed his actual value to the team. For a roster chasing another NBA title, every move must be made wisely, and trading valuable assets for a center who will, at best, be a backup does not seem like the kind of decision that puts a team on the path to a championship.